7th, 2025 Long Range Planning Committee meeting on Arlington's comprehensive plan update. I'm Jim Lantelmi, and I'm filling in right now for our chair, Sarah Steinberg. She was running a little bit late. We're holding this hybrid public meeting, which enables remote electronic participation as legally authorized by the Code of Virginia per the Planning Commission's electronic meeting policy adopted on July 7, 2022. We have commissioners participating both in person and virtually, I believe. Members of the LRPC are participating here both in person and virtually. This meeting is being recorded for our public records and will be posted on the Arlington County Commission Meetings YouTube page. Please avoid sharing any personal information that you would not like to be made public. At this time, I'd like to orient everyone to our hybrid environment and cover a few specifics about how tonight's meeting will be run. Members of the public may attend the meeting here in person or electronically by using the Microsoft Teams link provided on the LRPC web pages, the county's events calendar, and the email notifications sent to LRPC ZOCO email subscribers. Additionally, there is a dial-in phone option for those who wish to use that. For our planning commissioners joining virtually, if anyone loses internet connectivity during tonight's meeting, please reconnect with us by phone. And please keep your phones and devices muted until you are called upon. Turn off sound to any other devices around you to minimize interference. For our virtual attendees using Microsoft Teams, please turn off your video feed, and I'll address when it's appropriate to turn it on in a moment. Microsoft Teams meeting chat is active to serve two purposes: to assist participants who need technical support and for participants to pose brief clarifying questions to the larger audience. While the clarifying questions will be monitored, they will not be formally acknowledged. Staff may address these comments as appropriate. The Teams meeting chat should not be used for discussion or inappropriate statements. Those who are planning to provide public comment may only do so at the end of this meeting, as the chat may not be used for that purpose. All public comments must be shared verbally for the record during the assigned public testimony periods. Also, given the way this room works, I remind everybody here in the room to speak up slowly and clearly, because the microphones are up around the ceiling, around here. For LRPC members, if commissioners participating virtually wish to be recognized to speak on an item during the course of this meeting, turn on your video feed and raise your virtual hand in Teams. I, as well as staff or Sarah, will monitor the video feeds. And now, do we have any commission members who've joined by telephone? We know that? I didn't see anybody. Good. For members of the public who would like to provide feedback and comment, unlike the Planning Commission's regular meetings, LRPC agenda items are not public hearings. Therefore, public comment is at LRPC chair's discretion, and we're of course using that discretion tonight to allow that. We will call for speakers at the end of the meeting after the committee discussion has concluded. Members of the public attending virtually will speak first, followed by in-person attendees. Speaking time allotted will depend on the number of speakers we have this evening. In-person attendees, please, if you're here, add your name to the sign-in sheets up against the wall there. For virtual attendees, please indicate in the chat that you'd like to provide comment, and your name will be added to the list of speakers. Ms. Alfonso Ahmed here will acknowledge your request in the Teams chat. When virtual attendees are called upon to speak, you must unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that's located on your Teams meeting command bar. The moderator does not have the ability to unmute you. You will be muted, though, when your time is concluded. As an alternative, public comment may also be provided on the public comment form posted on the LRPC's webpage. And finally, this is a public forum. Tonight's meeting will be recorded and posted to the county website. All information associated with tonight's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. That said, why don't we go around the room first in person, and then we'll go to people online to introduce ourselves. As I mentioned, I'm Jim Lantelmi, standing in for Sarah, but I'm also a member of the Planning Commission.
Natasha Alfonso Ahmed, coordinator for the LRPC and with the Planning Division.
Hi, good evening, Jennifer Smith. I'm with staff in the comprehensive planning team.
And Ben Hyde, Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Alyssa Tope, architect and urban planner with the Arts Commission.
David Howell, Forestry and Natural Resources Commission.
Andrew Ferreira, Tenant Landlord Commission Chair.
Sahel Hussein, Transportation Commission.
My name is Tony Striner. I'm with the Planning Commission.
I'm Carolyn Romano. I'm the chair of the Commission on the Status of Women.
Alex Foster with the HALRB.
Rana Ghazali, Principal Planner, Planning Division.
Emily Garrett, Associate Planner, Planning Division.
Understood. Resident.
That's, that's okay. Okay, let's go online. Do we have any commissioners online? I think I see that we do.
Hi, this is Tenley Peterson, Planning Commission.
This is Marilyn
Hi,
McGowan.
Daniel Weir.
Go ahead.
Daniel Weir, Planning Commission.
Marilyn McAllis, the Disability Advisory Commission.
Kellen McBeth, Chair of the Housing Commission.
I'm Kathy Cameron. I'm Vice Chair of the Commission on Aging.
Matt Weinstein, Economic Development Commission.
Hi, this is Rob Sandoli, Climate Change, Energy, Environment Commission.
I'm Michael Cornfield, Information Technology Advisory Commission.
And Caroline Haynes, you had said something, you were on mute.
I'm the alternate for Forestry and Natural Resource. David Howell is the
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for clarifying that. Yeah, David's at the table here. Okay, great. I guess we could start right away and staff has their presentation.
Hello, also John Kirkpatrick, Arlington Neighborhoods Advisory Committee.
Oh, great. Did I miss anybody else online?
Rick Epstein, resident.
Okay.
Jackie Snelling, resident.
Very good. Jackie, hi.
And we have one more in person.
Yeah, Jean, you're online. You can also introduce yourself. Jean, thanks, Rob.
We get in here. Christopher Corey and Enriqueta Barrera, residents.
Hey, Jean, I see that you're online. Do you want to introduce yourself? You have to unmute. Well, Jean Hensroth is, I see that she is logged in, so
Okay.
she's another a community member.
Yes, okay.
Okay, well, okay.
One more person, I'm sorry, in person that's representing the climate, the alternate.
The C2E2 Commission, I'm the alternate, Liliana Diaz.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so.
Hi, this is, can you hear?
Who is that? Please say again.
Jean Hensroth.
Oh, good. Hi, Jean.
Hi, yes, I'm president of Leeway Overlay Civic Association and I'm a citizen observer. So.
Thank you. Go back on mute. Okay. Is that everybody? Miss anybody? Okay, I guess it's now time to have the staff presentation.
Thank you. All right.
Take it away.
Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate the introduction. And hello again, my name is Rana Ghazali. I'm a principal planner with the Planning Division. And today we're going to talk about the comprehensive plan update. So we're very excited to have you and for your input as well. On the agenda for today, we're going to do an overview of the comprehensive plan update effort, the scope of work and timeline. We're going to talk a little bit about our community engagement strategy, some very initial preliminary observations since we just, concluded the bulk of our initial focus group meetings. We'll talk also about the LRPC role and, the commission's role as well and how you can support us. And then get some initial LRPC feedback with the extended LRPC members of the commissions and committees as well on the preliminary guiding principles that are part of this discussion. And so kind of giving just a little bit of a snapshot of what the comprehensive plan is, in terms of then and now. As many of you are aware, it was established in the 1960s originally included 5 elements: general land use, water distribution system, sanitary sewer collection system master plan, the storm and sewer plan, and the transportation plan. And a lot of that got amended over the years to include the 12 elements that you can see here as part of this wheel of all colors, and now has those 12 elements. And so part of this comprehensive plan update is to develop a new introductory chapter that hopefully would include modernized goals that are going to be expressed as people-centric guiding principles. Why we are modernizing those goals is also, I'm assuming many of you are aware that these goals were actually adopted with the adoption of the comprehensive plan. So they're kind of up for an update. A lot of them focus on the operational aspect. We want to make sure that sides of the policy shine through as part of those goals and objectives. That is also people-centric. Some need updating in terms of what it means in terms of limitation of intense development, for example, as the first goal, the predominantly residential character, while we see a lot of mixed-use development, things of that sort. So we're really looking into updating those comprehensive plan goals and objectives. And with updating it, and why that matters, is that drafting that new introductory chapter that is part of the overall comprehensive plan update will allow Arlington to incorporate emerging priorities or unaddressed issues that a few of the comprehensive plan elements don't yet include. Some of them that have been updated recently do include them, but we want kind of an overarching umbrella that allows even the update of upcoming comprehensive plan elements to follow, those larger goals and objectives related to equity, for example, climate change, public health, economic resilience, and the connection to the comprehensive plan as a whole. In terms of also updating the comp plan, we're really looking into people-centric guiding principles that align with the community priorities, and then demonstrating how those different 12 elements are working together to achieve that kind of vision of Arlington County that is in the center of that wheel that we talked about. So we want to make sure that it shines as part of that introductory chapter that brings everything together and shows how all of those elements contribute to the big picture. And in terms of the scope of work, this update will take place in 2 phases. The first phase will include, as I said, that new introductory chapter, hopefully with, for the county board, of course, consideration. We're looking to include data about the existing conditions, where we are now. Also, the guiding principles that I talked about, they're up for some update, an overview of the 12 elements and how they work together, and then the process of future comprehensive plan element update, and also where we want to be, right? And so part of that phase also is developing a scope of work for phase 2 general land use plan, or known as the GLUP. That would happen in terms of the update itself in phase 2. So we're looking into, of course, the board consideration as well, and that's subject to final scoping in considering revised land use and placemaking goals that reflect Arlington's vision for growth and development, updating the GLUP map and booklet, and explaining what is allowed where in Arlington. Maybe also add a glossary of terms so that people without a planning background are able to understand what those planning terms mean and are able to, read that document and so that it's more people's. So things that the new introductory chapter will do, things that it won't change. That chapter would highlight the county's community values and priorities through those updated goals and objectives, incorporating racial equity, as I said, some of those cross-cutting issues and priorities, economic resilience, health, etc., offer data about those existing conditions and outline the process for future element updates. We're not updating any of those 12 elements in that first phase, as I said. We're not changing any of the zoning or land use or the county's current vision statement. that ends up resulting in changing the vision statement. Hopefully that's a good, byproduct of us revisiting the goals and objectives. But in that phase, we're mainly looking at kind of bringing everything together through that introductory chapter and modernizing those goals and objectives. And like a little bit of visual around that is we are hopefully utilizing as a first basis or preliminary base, the American Planning Guiding Principles. It was part of a report that talked about best practices in comprehensive plan development. And it's meant to be utilized by government agencies who are developing comprehensive plan as a guide to help kind of incorporate several overarching issues: livable built environment, harmony with nature, resilient economy being one of them, interwoven equity, health and safe communities, and responsible regionalism. So this is kind of showing, how we can show the overarching guiding principles and the Arlington County cross-cutting issues, how they are kind of moving in the different comprehensive plan elements through a lot of things that align with those, best practices, like our racial equity. We recently developed our equitable guiding principles, for example, our economic opportunity and resilience initiatives, sustainability and climate action, access to services, biophilic design, aging and community, food security, etc. And through all of this, we would be asking ourselves, who's benefiting, who's burdened, who's missing, and how do we know, and what are we doing about it? And so in terms of the timeline, in 2024, we did a lot of prep. We did 18 interviews with almost all of the departments and programs within the county to really understand what they're doing in terms of services and in terms of policies and programs, to see if they currently align with our current comprehensive plan goals and objectives. And we've identified a lot of gaps. So it kind of confirmed the problem statement that we had regarding, the need for updating our comprehensive plan goals and objectives. We also were really looking into making a process that is inclusive in terms of obtaining community feedback. So we worked on developing something called the Community Vulnerability Index Map, or the CVIM. And that really helped through various criteria like income, age, educational attainment, poverty level, to identify the areas with the highest vulnerability within Arlington County. So this would serve us in kind of the status quo of where we are as Arlington, but also in terms of outreach, kind of answering that question, that equity lens, who's missing, who's burdened, etc. And so we're hoping that this doesn't just serve our project, but really replicates for other projects as well. And we are now here in the spring and summer. We've done our bulk of our focus group meetings. We still have one, hopefully, to go in June. We've also hosted the online feedback opportunity with kind of a few questions for the focus group that will carry through the fall of this year, where we will have the larger community meetings, as well as pop-up events, and continue with the online feedback opportunity. In winter, this is where we see the drafting of the introductory chapter, and of course, the review, whether it's internal or through the commissions or through the public, to really develop that introductory chapter as the main deliverable. And hopefully in 2026, this is where we see the GLUP, or the General Land Use Plan, taking place in terms of the audit. So in terms of our community engagement strategy, we were really grateful for our communications team that really utilized a lot of the tools to allow for that to become an inclusive, engagement process. So we utilize the 6-step guide to engagement. The engagement level that applies is collaborative, because we really want the community's input on what we are seeing as preliminary guiding principles. We had the guide to equitable engagement that allowed us to identify which groups we can reach out to, even incentivize, and what formats we can utilize. And as I said, the Community Vulnerability Index Map to reach people where they are as well. So we're looking into 8 focus group meetings. It was between 8 and 10, focused on the lived experience. So we really wanted the community to tell us what it means to live in Arlington, what are the challenges, etc. And 6 of those were in historically underrepresented or marginalized communities. We did direct outreach for 40 plus community organizations, as I said, online feedback form, and we're also doing something that is a bit new with the community liaisons, that we wanted them to be bilingual in one of the top 6 languages spoken in Arlington. And we wanted them to kind of serve as our community connectors. So a good bunch of them actually attended those focus group meetings. So it was kind of a mini prep for them. And we're really excited to get them on board. We're kind of in the selection process. So we're very excited about this as well. In the fall, this is where the in-person and the virtual community meetings, a total of 4 that we're looking into, pop-up events as well, and the online feedback form that will be expanded upon. And in our engagement approach, as I said, those community liaisons would really ensure the community voices, especially those from historically underrepresented or marginalized communities, are included in that planning process. They would attend the orientation meetings. We would give them talking points. They would distribute county material translated into various languages and participate in the community engagement activities. So we're looking into 6 people in total, bilingual. The online application was on our webpage, and we are, as I said, in the process of selection. And we're hoping that, it can carry out as on a rolling basis if there's appetite and funding also, because it's a paid volunteer opportunity that we were grateful to get funding for through the Virginia Housing. And they would log in activities and hours to enable, reporting on how many people they reached and what the impact was. And I'm just gonna show also, before I do that, in terms of the feedback gathered so far, we had, as I said, Black African American community as part of the focus groups. We had the Hispanic Latino community, another focus group, the business and community organization, the low-income renter community, the Middle Eastern community, teens and students community, and then elderly, aging in place, and disability community. The last one of this month was on May 22nd. And there's effort, as I said, to schedule a focus group with the East Asian community in June. That was the hardest to reach. So we're kind of, focusing our strategy, and we would appreciate any help or advice on us doing that. There was a total of 87 participants. And some of the feedback that we got aligned with initial feedback that we had from the interdepartmental group as well, in terms of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, or challenges that, informed our SWOT matrix. Some of the things that we kind of gleaned from the focus groups was in terms of things or strengths they saw is liking living in Arlington because of the walkability, the diversity. The weaknesses was affordability was front and center in almost all of the discussions, and kind of being forced sometimes out of Arlington just because of affordability and not being able to sustain your family. Access and accessibility, they wanted more of that in terms of healthcare providers, healthy food opportunities. Mental health was also part of when we discussed what health means, and safety in schools was one of the things that were also top in terms of the discussion. And then fair and competitive wages, when it comes to economic resilience. Some also suggested that we talk separately and include as part of our guiding principles, educational components, governance, and transparency to make sure there's a balance when it comes to the operational aspect as well as the policy aspect. So we're kind of absorbing all of that. We're in the analysis phase, but I just wanted to give you a flavor of what we've encountered so far. And I have some pictures to share. So this This one is from the business and community organizations. This is from the Black and African community. This one is from the Disability and Aging in Place. You can see that we kind of did a mix between discussions and also kind of having them walk around. This little scale talked about the importance of what that word means to them, what comes to mind when they hear that word, and kind of guided them through the discussion. And then you can see here, it's a little small, but in the Hispanic community, this whole presentation was done in Spanish entirely. So it was really amazing. We had help of focus group, and Natasha also did part of the facilitation. We had the Middle Eastern, all of the material was translated into the main languages as well. And here maybe you could see someone throwing like a yarn ball. It was part of the icebreaker exercise where we had them throwing the yarn ball and in the end forming like a beautiful web that we kind of said that this means that we're all connected and we want to make sure that all of our ideas are shared in that kind of web of ideas. And so it was really great to see all of that feedback. And so this is where we come to what the LRPC, this is where we kind of devised the discussion into three main elements. The lived experience, as I said, where you could see people kind of saying what comes to mind, the preliminary American Planning Association guiding principles, and then ended it with kind of what are we doing well? How do we need to improve? What are the weaknesses and the challenges that people are facing? And then opportunities that can help us, move forward. And so this is where we get into the LRPC role and how you can support us. We really kind of want to lean on you and your committees and commissions for awareness raising. We're hoping that this expanded LRPC serves as an opportunity and as a hub for discussion to prepare for, hopefully our future planning commission hearing through kind of initial discussions, and then championing this effort, attending in-person community meetings if you have the chance during the fall, and spreading the word about the comprehensive plan update webpage, and encouraging people to fill out the online feedback form, as well as encouraging attendance of any of your constituents or commission or committee members, because that would be a great opportunity to get the feedback. And so in terms of future LRPC meetings, we're looking into hopefully the second and the third meeting to occur around September and late fall, where we can discuss the community input. We will have some more analysis to share with you, findings and key takeaways. And then hopefully the LRPC, the fourth one, would kind of focus on the draft introductory chapter and maybe the phase 2 scope of work. And so I will stop here, in terms of the LRPC feedback on those preliminary guidelines. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that's the only presentation for the evening. Okay.
Yes.
So in terms of clarifying, hi, I'm Sarah Steinberger. I couldn't find parking and I have a toddler, but hello. Thank you to Jen for starting the meeting. And I see a lot of familiar faces and some faces less familiar. But anyway, I'm Sarah. So hi, thank you. Glad I got a chance to actually some of the presentation. Okay, so I usually like to start with clarifying questions. Those are questions that are like, you said such and such. What did you mean? As opposed to, this is my perspective, like substantive feedback on the presentation. Sometimes it's a fine line between the two things. Not that much of a stickler, but if I feel like you veered into the one from the other, I will say something. So with that said, does anyone have clarifying questions related to the presentation? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, with the community outreach, I take it you've also been contacting sort of the established organizations in the county. We have CivFed, we have Columbia Pike Organization, the Langston Boulevard Alliance. All of those entities have reached out to larger constituencies to help, that could help. And a lot of them are, what they do is they try to facilitate things rather than have their own opinions on stuff. I mean, Fed certainly votes on things, but it's a good convening for outreach for large numbers of people who are community activists. How do they fit into the outreach?
Yeah, definitely. Our communications teams reach out, as I said, to 40+ organizations that we have worked with before, and almost more than half of them actually replied and enabled us to invite participants to our focus groups. Those are kind of smaller, and with their role will carry on also into incentivizing and asking people to join the larger community meetings as well. Some of those organizations were also attending as part of our focus group meetings, the businesses and community organizations. So they provided feedback as well. And we're hoping that through all of our partners, we're able to, at least if they didn't help us get participants or get people, at least spreading the word about the comprehensive plan webpage or the online form to help people fill it out or provide their opinion if they can't attend in person or virtually through our meetings as well.
And Rana, too, we're planning for a newsletter as well. So that'll be some additional information that can be pushed out and to continue to grow those who are interested and want to follow with some periodic material coming out over the summer. I don't know the exact time frame of when we're starting to push that out, but that'll be through the summer and into the fall.
Can I just add real quick? Fed was represented at the business and community organization group meeting, as well as the LBA and all the other partners.
Okay.
They were all there.
So before I go to you, I'm actually realizing we have a couple hands on the screen because I'm really bad at looking at the screen. I have no idea how long you've been up there. So let's hit the screen, people.
So we have Kellen, Macbeth. We have 3 commissioners who have their hands up.
Okay.
So Kellen, Macbeth, Marilyn, McAllis, and Tenley Peters.
Okay, and one is Kellen?
Yes.
Okay, Kellen, you're up.
Thanks. I have one clarifying question. I have 2 comments, but I can save the comments for after. Can you help us understand a little bit more, or at least help me understand what influence this intro chapter is going to have on decision making in the county? I know the comprehensive plan is required. I know we have individual constituent plans. Like, what is the point of the intro? And what impact will this have on decision making in the county after it is updated? Other than it will sound wonderful, and if people want to read it, it will sound be a wonderful thing for them to look at. But can you help us understand, like, this will be used to make these types of decisions moving forward?
Yes, thank you for the question. I can answer, right?
Yeah, that's a clarifying question. Comments will be reserved for later. That is a clarifying question.
So definitely updating the comprehensive plan through that introductory chapter, as I mentioned, would allow within it updating the comprehensive plan goals and objectives. So those would be the overarching policies that would allow us to kind of align and sometimes catch up with some of the elements that have been updated with community priorities like equity, like climate change, like economic resilience. Some of also those objectives allow us to have space for economic resilience, for example, or safety or health that doesn't necessarily have its own comprehensive plan element, but it's an important, policy, kind of factor when it comes to making decisions. So those overarching goals and policies, usually the vision comes first in the comprehensive plan or in county or government, and then the goals and objectives kind of carry through that. And then you have the strategies or actions that kind of take that into the operational aspect. So we're really looking into updating those current comprehensive plans, goals and policies that would align with our cross-cutting issues, community values, and allow us also to show how those 12 elements are working together. So when you are making a decision, when we are even let's say, reviewing a project, we want to make sure that it is touching on meeting those goals and objectives that are part of the comprehensive plan. So if it doesn't, then something is missing. And any other decisions as well that we take, it's important to look at those goals and objectives because the comprehensive plan serves as a guiding document when it comes to development and when it comes to growth. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. We're gonna continue with the virtual people and then get back into the room. Who was that? Is that Tenley? The second TP?
No, Marilyn McAllis.
Oh, sorry, Marilyn. Sorry, the numbers changed and I got confused.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see. Can we go back and look at chart 8 relative to guiding principles, the whole initial? Can we go to chart 8? Is that okay? Is it possible to go back to chart 8?
Who is chair?
This one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, chart 8. In the box on the bottom on blue, the one thing that I would like for people to consider is disability, equity, and inclusion to be added to that. And I'm coming from two different perspectives on the advisory commission. I'm on the Disability Advisory Commission. One is the fact that, and I'm going to say it out loud, the DEI, the diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the things we're really concerned about is making sure that we stay front and center, that we're not just a tiny, tiny minority, that we would like to make sure that that's front and center. And not to say that you didn't go out to people. We saw that. We understand that our people were included in that. But I think it's something to consider to add to guiding principles under this particular box. And one other thing very quickly is the, and I'm going to talk one more thing, on the focused lived experience. If you haven't already thought of that, make sure that you come to the DAC, the Disability Advisory Commission, and maybe we can give you some people to help with that lived experience if you haven't already thought of that. So those are my two things, other than we have a new liaison, which is Commissioner Spain on the board of the county. And I'm hoping, and we've met with him, he's very committed. He's a disabled veteran, and that he can actually do some actions relative to our concerns. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. I appreciate all that feedback. I don't think any of it was clarifying questions, though.
Thank you.
That's okay. Commissioner Peterson.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation and for your work on this thus far. I have a question about outreach, including for the focus groups. How are you recruiting people, generally, familiar faces versus new folks? And then the second question is, when you have the focus groups, are there standard questions and formats, or do you kind of change the focus group relative to the theme of the group? For example, the business community, you might ask different questions to than a different group of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for the purpose of the focus groups, we relied on our partners to help us identify people who would participate. It's smaller kind of in number. We're looking at around 15 maximum. And this is how we were able to recruit them. Some also of the participants encouraged others to participate as well. And in terms of asking the questions, we wanted the questions to be standardized, but as I said, we modified that and where there were language barriers that we anticipated, we asked for language needs as well. We translated the documents in different languages that we also plan to post on our webpage. So we would see that, presentation in different languages as well. We kind of were, this allowed us to see kind of the different focus in terms of answering those questions in terms of the different focus groups and how their lived experience helped shape and change and tell us what is missing in the certain statements that we reviewed as part of the guiding principles. Standardizing that helps, but we got different results every single time. So it allowed us to really see the diversity in those groups that we reached out to.
Thank you.
Okay, back in the room. You, sir, and then you know.
Okay. Andrew Ferreira, the Tenant Landlord Commission. My question is regarding the online engagement. What was the form of that online engagement? Was it virtual groups? Was it a survey? And what was the response rate?
Thank you so much. So the online engagement is still ongoing. We're hoping to close at least for the 30th of May and then have one that is a bit more extended in preparation for the larger group meetings in the fall. I still don't have like the numbers on me with regards to how much the rate is, but every time we have a group, we encourage them to fill out that online feedback form. It was actually printed as a QR code on the back of their packet. And ask them to encourage others to respond to it. So once we have those numbers, we are happy to share them.
Thank you.
Well, it's not closing for a while, right?
Yes.
The online. So
You
it's
said
still
June
open.
30th.
No, so
No.
June, up to June 30th, we're kind of keeping it. And, we might expand on that online feedback form to add additional questions.
Okay, sorry. I know I said you were next, but now I'm asking a clarifying question because that confused me. So it's open till June 30th, and then there'll be another online engagement potentially?
That might happen. We might either close it or expand.
Or just,
with
or
additional
extend it additional,
Yes.
add questions
Or
to
add
it.
questions, yes. It was in
Okay.
preparation for the focus group meeting, so we didn't want it to be too long.
Got it.
The larger meetings will allow us to expand a little bit.
Okay, I don't know.
So for now, bank on June 30th.
Yes.
Okay.
We have online.
Right.
I think this is a clarifying question, I may be breaking my own rule, but how does that work with a survey if like it starts with one set of questions and then you add questions? Does that still work? Like, how does that work from like a gathering data standpoint? I'm not a statistics.
Yeah, I mean, we're asking Bailey about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. So when we add additional questions, that will be more geared towards each of the different preliminary guiding principles and asking clarifying questions regarding what that means to the lived experience and additional input regarding that as well.
Okay.
So it might, it wouldn't impact, the initial questions about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and challenges. We would just add additional questions specifically to those guiding principles.
Okay, and there's no limit on how many people can do times one person can do the online engagement?
I don't think.
We don't have a way to track.
We don't have a way to track that. So if someone did the first version, then you added questions, they could go back in and do, okay, I just,
Do it again.
that's fine. Okay, I think those were clarifying questions. Your turn, ma'am, sorry.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for the presentation. Lovely to see the county in action. I belong to the Energy and Environment Commission. And my question is a clarifying one. Can we go back to slide 8?
Yes, and popular.
My question, it's about your definitions. And the reason why is because we have sustainability and climate resilience, and then we have biophilia as well as a topic. But I wonder what's your definition there? Because people understand different things when you talk about sustainability or climate. We have as a principle or an objective to understand what's the priority in the mind of the Arlingtonians regarding climate change. But climate change is a huge topic, and then sustainability is a very broad topic. Then climate resilience can be either mitigation, adaptation, then biophilia is it's a technical term.
Yes.
And ideally you would be better off with nature. And maybe you can just create one definition, because the way that people understand the concept matters for the response that you get. And I just say this because I think these topics are going to rise in importance as we sadly endure the impacts of climate change. Yeah, and biodiversity loss. And so if you provide a working definition, then it's easier for the people to rank this as important or not, or to understand the impact. My other, it's a comment, not a question, so I'll keep it for next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one thing, that as you see here, this is kind of the preliminary guiding principles, the initial 6 that we're looking into. With those terms, those are identified and they could be identified differently through each, comprehensive plan element. If it contains sustainability, for example, the forestry and natural resources that contains biophilia. So it is kind of explained there, but we're looking into starting with those 6 and seeing if we can group a lot of the things that we are already addressing as part of the 12 comprehensive elements under, such a statement or an explanation. But yes, having explanations is critical as part, of updating the comprehensive plan, because it allows people without that planning background, as I said, to understand what those terms mean.
I have a question, but I'll follow up them.
Well, actually, I understand that this gentleman is actually a member of the public, which you make public comment, so that will be happening at the end. Although, who is RE?
Rick Epstein.
That is a commissioner. No, right? No, also public. Okay, same statement applies. That will happen at the end with public comment. I will make sure we do have time for public comment. Is this a clarifying question, or are we able to jump? Clarifying? Okay.
Yes, I see that we've mentioned a lot about housing and development in that regard. Where does that fall on this chart? Is it under the first box or the second box? Because it's a comment that comes up a lot in what you mentioned in your presentation, but I don't see it here.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we already have the affordable housing plan as part of our comprehensive plan elements, but we saw that affordability, for example, can be part of livable built environment. It can also be part of resilient economy. If there is appetite to kind of bend on that, even title or name or have, a guiding principle, we're all ears to understand the feedback on that. But in terms of initial kind of cross-cutting issues, this list is by no means kind of exhaustive of everything that we have as cross-cutting issues and priorities. This is kind of examples of things that kind of took place as part of the comprehensive plan elements, the different elements updates, and kind of addressed as key priorities or cross-cutting issues. But it's part of resiliency, could be part of access to services, aging in place or aging community. Housing can be an aspect of it, and affordability, of course. Our plan, as I said, is called affordable housing.
We have David.
So, un momento. Yes.
So Bob Benson, because I just saw his thing on next to his name. He does represent FNRC, but there are already 2. So I don't know if you want to take him now or wait.
No, we'll give them for public comment. We generally only have 1 member of each participating commission as the official representative.
Yeah.
So if there is confusion over who is representing a different group in this group, please determine that among your group and then let us know. I don't feel strongly on whomever is representing, but we do want to, that is our policy and we do stick with it. Ma'am, and I am sorry to delay your comment.
Okay, I was asking about the community vulnerability index map. Can you just tell us a little more about that? Is it available or is there data associated?
Yes, definitely. It's definitely on our webpage, so you can access it to learn a little bit more on it. But as I said, we had, I think, 7 criteria that related to age, income, poverty level, educational attainment. There's 2 others. I think race was also one of them. Yes. And it allowed us to create a really neat formula as part of our research team that worked on it, that kind of ranked all of the criteria and then ranked them again. And it allowed us to really see against the mean in Arlington, how we are ranking in terms of census tract. So it was kind of reliable on the census tract level, because some of the statistics that we were looking into, while it was great to map, it didn't end up being reliable on the census tract level. So it's kind of just an initial tool that allows us to start scratching the surface in terms of looking closer into those census tracts and determining, areas of vulnerability and how that hopefully can affect decision-making as one among several tools when it comes to decision-making. So it's kind of part of our equity lens approach, but it depended on, research and various criteria and kind of expanding from the binary, race and income that is usually used to determine vulnerability.
Okay, I would like to get us into substantive sort of discussion. So all those comments that y'all were holding back on, we can get into sort of the comment and feedback portion. I don't per se have kind of a topical list to run through first night. I think that, I'm sorry.
Well,
We do,
Say,
we don't.
Rana, you've got the guiding principles. that we've-
Oh, okay, so we can talk through, is that how folks would like to approach this, by going through kind of living guiding principle by guiding principle?
Yep.
Okay, then that is how we will do it. I'm just going to do everything at once, but this works.
She would present each principle one at a time and then present the questions that we're hoping everyone would sort of consider and then tackle them that way. So if you go to the next slide,
Okay.
she'll show you an example,
Sure.
just to help move it along.
Sure. Just before I go, as I said, this section hopefully will get your feedback on those preliminary guiding principles. We're going to go over them one by one, but it's important to know that, especially for the interwoven equity, we're going to read that statement, keeping in mind the fact that all of those are serving as a basis. They're just preliminary based on best practices and the APA guidance. And then we want to make them unique for Arlington. We want to see if there's changes that need to be made to those statements, if there's guiding principles that we want to add, if they're all good and great, and we want to include all of them. All of those things are part of it. But as I said, part of the equity is knowing that, you know, the adopted equitable development principles is something that we want to highlight as part of the interwoven equity, if that ends up, you know, making it as part of those guiding principles, because it really solidifies the fact that we committed to that through our resolution, and that it touches a lot of things like community engagement, preventing displacement, advancing economic mobility and opportunity. So just keeping that in mind when you are, you know, looking at those statements, because it helps create that connection and strengthen it that has already been made by the community. And so we are going to be asking two main questions. Is that primary APA guiding principle appropriate for Arlington? And is there something missing in each of those guiding principle statements? And then towards the end, we're going to ask you if you want to add actually any additional guiding principles. So do you want me to start?
I do. Kellen, is this a clarifying question, or you have your hand raised? I'd really like to get into the first principle here.
It was a comment on the prior material that was presented. So I don't know if I should save that until after all this new information is presented, or if.
See if it factors in as we're going through these and find the appropriate time, but I do want to get into this because we're going to be running behind schedule.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Perfect. So we'll start with the livable built environment. And that was a question that was also asked in all of the focus group meetings. And we're also hoping to continue to ask that question when we get additional community feedback. So for the livable built environment, it says all elements of the built environment, including land use, transportation, housing, energy, and infrastructure, work together to provide sustainable green places for living, working, and recreation with a high quality of life. So we want to know if this is appropriate for Arlington, and if there's something missing in that statement.
Yes.
I would say the phrase attainable is one that I think, especially given the comments regarding affordability, are one of the biggest weaknesses that we're dealing with in this area right now. I think affordable reads too much of affordable housing, so I think attainable is something that is important here, because we want to have people move here and be able to stay here. And they want to.
Yes.
A couple additions possibly. It doesn't say welcoming anywhere. And, you know, that's in the Pentagon City Sector Plan as part of the revised master transportation plan. And it's not just people here, but we want to be welcoming them and supporting them. The other population that mentioned here is visitors. And that's a huge part of our local economy, especially for those of us who live in National Landing or Roslyn. So we really need to be welcoming and supportive of visitors too.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't know if this works in this one or potentially the other listings, equity guiding principles. Regardless of either one, the term quality before the terms transportation and infrastructure, because it's one thing to just have transportation and infrastructure, but it's an entirely different thing to have quality transportation and infrastructure. So that would be a pretty important term to, like, I'd love to put like reliable, affordable, equitable, but like quality is frequent, but quality kind of very overarching.
Commissioner Peterson, then we'll go here, then we'll go to Commissioner Ware.
Thank you. So I just wanted to suggest that we take a quick look at some of the work that's being done for the transportation update, because they have a really, really good vision already that they're kind of putting together that kind of speaks to like what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think maybe the words that we've chosen there or that are being proposed there could work really well. I like the inclusion of equity, and I also Commissioner Howell may agree or disagree with this, but he recently suggested the word natureful instead of green or sustainable in some cases. And I really liked that word natureful. So like where it says work together to provide sustainable instead of green places for living, working, and recreation, it could be natureful. So it really speaks to like, we want nature to be all among us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, it's easy to follow, Tim. Yeah, a good set of guiding principles is actually, I think a lot of times a web of concepts that apply to all the different principles and help connect them together so that they can be mutually reinforcing as you go forward with goals and execution layers in any plan. So even though this one's talking about livable environment, and there's another one about harmony with nature, that's not a bad thing if there's a little bit of intentional redundancy. And I would say in this context that biophilic development is extremely important, because that's about the relationship between nature and human beings, genetically based connections that are beneficial. And you want that then to connect to in an equitable way, so it's available to everybody wherever they live, whatever circumstances they have, which then guides land use, because you need to make sure that the quality of space is something that happens everywhere. That doesn't negate the harmony with nature, because that is also about quality of space, but for all other living things that make the quality. And so therefore we have to have care and conservation and, sustainability and all those other functions that are about managing high quality natural space in an urban setting, which takes a little bit of work. So I think we're on a good path with that. And I'd love to see those hanging in there and all these as a thing that connects some of the different six. I mean, I think these are pretty good actually to the APA, but there are lots of things. You mentioned safety, and that's something that the transportation plan has. There's safety. If you look at safety and health as a sort of a complex of just care for your physical self and the environment, that's something that you want everywhere in every way. So
We're gonna go to Commissioner Ware.
Thank you. I really love this livable built environment statement, but I do have some concerns. These are all terms that read in different contexts, different environments, different times, and even in our times, can and have been used to argue for exclusion instead of embrace. I would like to see, in addition to this term, something that gives a toehold for those who see in the comprehensive plan a county that is not that is not at risk of reverting to a more exclusionary or a more sorry we're full attitude, because I don't believe that the county could ever be full. So I would really like to see something like place in addition to sustainable and green to see something like abundant or plentiful or myriad, something that emphasizes that the comprehensive plan envisions both providing and getting to this livable built environment, but also one. I heard welcoming earlier, but I think that we need more than that. We need something that has some overtones of quantity, that makes it clear that we see and can and intend to build a community that has a livable built environment, but also one that has a livable built environment for more than the 240,000 people who live here now. Thank you.
Okay, I saw a hand over here at the table.
Sure, and I think I just tie into that. Maybe it belongs in another section, or maybe it needs to be interwoven. But you mentioned the green aspect, and whether it's something about conserving our green spaces, but also our natural and our built environment. But maybe that's something also about kind of the historic narratives, whether it's preserving existing cultural narratives and then also welcoming in new ones. There's kind of dichotomy there. Maybe an opportunity to blend those, create space.
I do want to remind folks we have 5 other principles to run through. So we're going to finish with the virtual folks and we're going to move to the next principle.
Can I just say something that's important? Smart and resilient. We are setting this for the future, and the future is about digital technologies. We want smart infrastructure. We want resilient infrastructure in housing, in energy, in transportation, and also sustainable is a very broad concept. And sustainable can be part of diversity and inclusion, but can be part of governance, or can be part of climate. It would be better to be a little more specific and say, for example, clean. Clean means carbon free.
Okay, we're going to go to Commissioner Burgess, I believe it is. And Tenley, your hand is still up, but I think you already spoke. So if you could put your hand down, unless this is a different comment. Nope, same comment. There you go.
Thank you so much. So I appreciate these. I do think grammatically, livable built environment stands out on the list because everything else is more or less, I mean, most of them are talking about a general concept to be woven into the plan. And this livable built environment is only about the built environment part of it. And I don't know why. I would think we want everything to be livable. We want, you know, it's the key here is that it's livable, that it's welcoming, that it's usable, that it's, you know, easy to work into your life. That is certainly about transportation and land use and the built environment, but it's also things like the school system and the parks programs and lots of other things. So I love the livability, but I would actually want that not to be limited to built environment. And the other one that's on the screen right now, interwoven equity, for some reason it's limited to citizens. And I again, don't know why. I don't think we would want to limit it to citizens being Arlington. I mean, I wouldn't support that. I think we mean all people who are here, whether they're citizens, whether they're visitors, whether they're residents. And you know, we do, I was just talking to a new neighbor who has moved here for a year to work for, you know, for work from a foreign country. So there's lots of different people in Arlington. I think we mean equity for all of them. I think we mean welcoming for all of them.
Before I go to the next hand, I think there's been a little confusion. It looks like C2E2 has 2 representatives here. And since Ms. Diaz has already been participating from the table, Mr. Sandoli, you have become the alternate, so you can speak during public comment. And I do apologize for that confusion. For next time, whomever, again, you can switch for next time. It doesn't have to be the same person. I do apologize. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
Marilyn.
Marilyn, you're up.
Yeah, I'll be, just want to add one word to livable built environment, add the word accessibility. Needs to be accessible. That's, you know, really key. And apologies for not understanding that the initial part was questioned. So I assume that my comments that were the first part are just on the recording. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you. Let's go to the next principle.
All right, perfect. Actually, great segue because interwoven equity was discussed in some of the comments. So it's about ensuring fairness and equity in providing for the housing, services, health, safety, and livelihood needs of all citizens and groups. So again, the same question applies. Do you see this as appropriate for Arlington? And is there something missing in this?
Kellen, that time I could actually read the names. This is really straining my eyesight, but I got you. You're up.
Thanks. So I have a number of comments. So going back to earlier things and talking about equity, it seemed like every group was represented from the equity resolution in 2019 in the focus groups except the LGBTQ plus community. I don't know if that was intentional or just an oversight, but it sounded like every group but them was included. So I would encourage you all to also do a focus group for the queer community because I think that's an important one to ensure is represented. Also, there were a lot of references specifically to racial equity. And I think, as part of this conversation, we're looking at it much broader than just racial equity, which obviously is incredibly important, but it's equity for all the different groups that the board has, used for that term. I agree with the earlier comment about we shouldn't say citizens. It's irrelevant. The county doesn't have citizens. They have residents and people who work here or, visit. So I don't think that language is appropriate. I also think what could be missing here is around education or learning. So I know schools are separate, but the county still plays a role in overall education or learning for its residents, whether they be, youth or adults. So I think that learning piece of it could be added to the list of, housing services, health, safety, learning, and livelihood. I assume livelihood, we're talking about economic things. If that's true, then I think it makes sense. If it's not, then I think we need to add the economic piece to it.
Thank you. Any further comments in the room or online? Yes.
Hi, following up on comments she's given, LGBTQ was on my list of missing groups. Also the very young and the very old, the very frail, and for the disability and the impaired people, it's mental, neurodiverse, emotional, and physical. Those should all be addressed somewhere. Although we can't have a huge paragraph, but there's so many important.
Jillian, that's
yes,
Jillian.
Yes, sorry. And building on my other comments, the and groups, it also struck me as odd because I'm not sure that we, I don't know that fairness for every group is really the goal. I think here about like the KKK. I don't think we want fairness for them. I think it's, I think not every group is equal or deserves equity. Every person does.
Commissioner Weir?
I would just note that I think the word denizen might be a preferable alternative to citizen, and that's all.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this principle? Okay. Take us to the next one.
Perfect. Efficient group. All right, so the next one is harmony with nature. And it's about the contributions of natural resources to human well-being, that they are explicitly recognized and valued, and that maintaining their health would be a primary objective. So we want to see if this preliminary guiding principle is appropriate for Arlington, and is there something missing in this statement?
Yes.
Definition or the words that are there tend to be technical in general, and therefore perhaps for somebody who has no background on it, you may not understand that we're talking about ecosystem services, for example, water, clean air. If you can provide examples that are easy to understand, then you may get the people to understand what you're trying to do. And also you can talk about biodiversity, because we have rivers, we have birds, we have animals and flora. So bring it down to basic levels.
Yes, sir.
Yes, so my only comment is to add or define health, because I feel like health is, in that context, is always meant to physical health, but not mental. And it's often overlooked.
I will second that comment.
But that
Makes sense
health
to me.
it's referring to
Nature.
the nature.
Yeah, yes.
Yes,
Oh.
so it's not about the
It's
humans,
ambiguous.
it's about the ecosystem.
We're gonna get to that in health and safety.
Okay.
Still like the comment.
Yes, no, absolutely, and it resonates with so many comments we receive, so I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Sindoli, you're still now the alternate. Everything okay to hold that for public comment? Okay. Jillian, you're number one, then Marion, then Tenley.
Yeah, that I think the top line of harmony with nature works, but the rest of it to me doesn't work. Like it's not the natural I don't know. Natural resources strikes me as things like oil and coal and solar and wind, which is all great, but you know we're not here for the health of coal and oil, which are natural resources. And I think it misses the target that Arlington cares about, which is things like respect for nature, biophilia, recognition of climate change, trying to minimize our contribution to climate change while also adapting to the fact of climate change. You know, things like that, the write up here. I'm also particularly worried by the fact that this is the only one where we say it's a primary objective, which is a broader point I have about these goals. But, you know, the comprehensive plan already has an issue of like trying to balance and choose priorities among the different silos that we have in a comprehensive plan. And I'm not sure that this framework is going to solve that problem. But here in this write-up, we sort of say this is a primary objective and nothing else is a primary objective. So that makes it sound like this is, you know, more important than other goals, which is, I mean, it's very important, but not necessarily more important than other goals.
So I'm going to take chair's privilege and interject at that point that I do think that referring to only any one thing as a primary objective is problematic if we're having equality among the principles. So I think that that's a very valid point. I'm also wondering if instead of natural resources, something like natural environment might work better if we're concerned that people think we're trying to preserve oil. Marion, you're up.
Nature.
Oh, sorry, Marion's up, and then we'll go back. Thank you, Marion. Marilyn, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry,
I
Marilyn.
wasn't sure what
It's
you
still not that good, even though it's much
Okay,
closer.
just again, one more word under health and safety and community. Accessibility is the law. It needs to be called out.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson?
Thank you. So I agree with a lot of what Jillian said. I think there's a place for something about like native species or, you know, respecting the value of our native species. I also think Commissioner Weir's point and Commissioner Lantelmi made a point at a recent, I think, LRPC meeting about to the point about like the primary objective, making sure that this can't be used against some of the other priorities of the community, that this can't be a reason that we're not going to add more development because, oh, a tree could get cut down. Like, yes, I'm very sad to see our longstanding trees get cut down, but I also think housing is an important priority. And so just making sure that while we are calling out the importance of this issue, this aspect of our guiding principles, we're not doing so in a way that makes it so that other priorities are pushed down.
Sorry, a quick reminder for those virtual, once you've commented, please do lower your hand, mostly just so I don't get confused. You, sir, then you, ma'am.
Yeah, I think that the title harmony, this is to Tenley's point, that harmony with nature doesn't imply that it's above other things. It's nature is part of the context within which we have to do all the other 5 that are the EPA guidelines. As far as natural resources, it's, that when you work in an area, whatever it is, economics or health or whatever, there are terms of art that are commonly used, and it's sometimes hard to have those diluted or modified in a broader context. And so sometimes the best solution is to offer a short phrase that's a definition of sorts in the questions that you have in a survey or in the questions that you use to set up a discussion. As far as natural resources, though, the kinds of things that were discussed before typically are called natural capital, timber, minerals, oil, that kind of thing. It's natural capital. It's people spend their whole careers quantifying the value of those things. We use natural resources in Arlington a lot, and I don't know whether that needs a little bit of clarification, but we're talking about the things that create the character of our space and the quality of our space. And I think we can work with that just by being a little bit more explanatory. And doesn't have to be in the sentences there, but as part of the broader document, when all of this turns into an introduction, there's room to talk about those things, how they work.
I'll go to you and then Ms. Diaz, you had spoken before, and then we'll go here and then we'll go to Commissioner Lentani.
Perhaps there's space for something like acknowledging or awareness of the life cycle and environmental costs of certain planning decisions, because it doesn't allow us to prioritize a tree over new housing development, but it also is to work with it. So it can be balanced.
Ms. Diaz.
Yeah, I was just gonna contribute the terms of art that I am familiar with. You could say the contributions of nature and its ecosystem services to human well-being are explicitly recognized and valued, and maintaining, restoring, and preserving them is a priority.
You here, yes.
I was just gonna add that in my day job, I spent over 20-some years with the U.S. Department of the Interior, and we never referred to natural resources and mean anything other than oil, gas, timber. I've never heard the term natural capital before or used it. So I think just for the common folk who are reading this, but also for those of us who wear different hats, it's being as general and sort of conceptual, and not trying to use terms of art like biophilia or denizen is going to be more rewarding to the public.
I will interject that. I agree. I thank you for providing your day job expertise, because I was wondering about that, because even if natural capital is a term of art, I don't know if we want this to be accessible to the public. I don't know how much the public is going to know that term. So thank you. Commissioner Tommy.
Yeah, I actually would agree with those two people. Just looking at it, I was thinking the same thing. The contributions of nature to human well-being. That's all you really need to say, or to the natural environment. That simplifies it, because since so many people here are reading natural resources to mean oil and gas, that tells you something right there. That is not the term we want to be using, because we want everybody in Arlington who reads this to understand what we're getting at, and not use their preconceived notion of what these, or use technical terms either. Natural capital, I'd never heard that before. So we really don't want to use that type of thing. We want it to be as straightforward and as plain spoken as possible when we're describing something.
Okay. I'm thinking we can move to the next one. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so this one talks about a healthy and safe community. And it's about ensuring that public health needs are recognized and addressed through provisions for healthy foods, physical activity, access to recreation, so access is there, healthcare, environmental justice, and safe neighborhoods. So again, the same question applies. Is it appropriate for Arlington? And is there something missing in the state?
Yes.
Kelly, I understand that, I'll wait to go after. Or you want me to go first?
I called on you.
Okay.
You can go and then I'll go to Helen and then Julie.
Okay, sounds good. I think it's missing education as well as housing, because that contributes to a healthy and safe environment. I think it keeps saying safe neighborhoods and whatnot, but it's really, you don't have good housing, your health could deteriorate amongst other things. And then also, to echo my earlier point, to add mental health.
Okay, Kelly.
Thank you. I think physical activity just seems weird to me here. Yeah, I understand like the point, like we want people to be able to be physically active, but it just strikes me as a very odd thing to include with healthy foods, access to recreation. And again, it doesn't say access to or opportunity for physical activity, it just says physical activity. It just, the wording is weird to me. I also think that like, I think a lot about Destination 2027 with this, that if you look at, you know, when the report was written in 2019 to 2024, when they did an update last year, that our disparities in public health have actually gotten worse in a lot of ways. Like our, you know, the lifespans has increased from like 10 to 11, you know, year gaps between different neighborhoods. But overall, a lot of our indicators have gotten better, but the disparities are worse. So if there's a way to incorporate that, making sure we're looking at disparities so that it's not just, you know, as a community, is the average getting better, but, you know, because it's a very real thing that's happening, that it's getting worse for some people and better for a lot of others. So I think that should be included. And then when we talk about safe neighborhoods, it's not, to me, it shouldn't just be like, is crime low in that neighborhood, but do people feel safe? Do they feel able to be who they are? So again, going back to like LGBTQ plus folks, like, do they feel like they can walk with their partner holding their hand in the neighborhood without someone calling them the F word? That's also important for their mental health and well-being. And so I think maybe that's captured in safe neighborhoods. And at the same time, too, I think of like, do we have enough safe spaces, places where people can go, whether that's, you know, restaurants, entertainments, or things that they feel comfortable and confident being who they are and that they're going to be accepted and welcomed. And I think that's really important for the mental health, especially aspect. And also mental health should probably be included in here as well. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you. I had Jillian next, and then I'll go around the room.
Thank you. Building on, I agree with everything Kellen just said, and building on that. So I think the verbs here are quite right. I mean, the county doesn't ensure public health or provide food most of the time, with some limited exceptions. It's more like people's health is their choice, but the county can support healthy, you know, public health. It can support, it can provide options, it can encourage, you know, it's not ensure, it's just the wrong, ensure and provide seem like the wrong verbs here. Access to opportunity seems like a better idea. Also, this seems to be making safety part of public health, which I don't think that that's generally how it's thought of. I think of safety as its own thing. And as Kellen sort of was getting at, safety has different aspects. There's safety in like, I will not be hurt, but there's also security, like I will not be stolen from, I will not, you know, a lot of this in transportation, you know, it's talked about, there's transportation safety and then there's personal security, and that like, I won't be hit by a car, but also I won't be catcalled or, you know, somehow attacked by a person trying to attack me. So I think that's missing from this. Also, mitigating public health risks is something that I would expect to see in here somehow. I kind of, you know, I'm not rewriting it for you, but there's a bunch of stuff that I think are missing in mitigating the gap. And then also, like Helen said, the need for safe spaces. I think safe neighborhoods is it's too limiting. We want the county to be safe, and we want people to have safe spaces throughout the county. Third spaces are really important. It's been a theme that we've had to contend with in dealing with teen mental health and kids not having access to those safe third spaces that they need as they're growing up. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Again, so Commissioner Steiner, and then, remind me your name, I'm so sorry. Pam, sorry, thank you. Well, Pam, they'll go to Commissioner and tell me. Commissioner Steiner.
Okay, so Kellen, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna come at you with the physical activity thing. I think that's important to leave in here, because it's not just, you know, for gym bros, it's for people who want to run on the sidewalks, who want to play basketball at the courts, you know, play soccer, all that, pickleball, but what have you. So I think it's important to have it there.
Well, but maybe it should be like access to physical activity or opportunities.
So there's the provisions for physical activity. It's all part of the same sentence. So.
Why is it access to recreation?
Yeah, there's no additive of for physical activity.
It's
Provisions for healthy foods.
Yes, it's provision for all of those.
For all those things.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it just needs a rewrite.
Yeah.
I think it works.
Pam.
Well, because
the 3 points.
Yes.
First, accessibility always. And the second point, I'm bothered that it has public health, but not access to other healthcare services, and people need both. And my third point is, for me, I always say as a pedestrian, is safe, feels safe. And they're two different concepts, and we want both.
Okay, Commissioner Tommy.
Yeah, I agree with Jillian. We don't provide healthy food. We encourage supermarkets everywhere, you know, discourage fast food, but we don't provide, we can't ensure that there's healthy food. You know, that just doesn't work for me. I do agree with Tony, the physical activity is important because it's a very large range of things. And I'd like to have somewhere recognition of walkability. You know, that cuts across a whole lot of things. That helps create a healthy and safe environment by having walkability. People on the street creates a safe environment. Just having them there does it. So we sort of helps tie everything here together. And I think getting rid of the word neighborhoods, and safe spaces instead broadens that also. Because then it would include a safe neighborhood because it's more than that. So I agree with earlier speakers about needing that safe spaces. I think this would be an important change. Thank you.
Mr. Ferrer?
No.
No?
I could go.
You were talking before, so I thought you don't have to.
Yeah. For me, it's just the editor ID. The commas are breaking it up, and I feel like it's the only one that has a verb, like an adverb before it is access to recreation. So that's why it's not flowing. So I would just rewrite it so that it incorporates what we're saying. Because it's provisions for healthy foods and then comma physical activity, comma access for recreation. It does not compute grammatically. Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, yes, then I'm gonna go virtual, then I'll go to you. You up? Okay.
Yeah, the idea of recreation or physical activity generally, I think everyone agrees is important, but not everybody does competitive active sports. And so we need parks with structure for those kinds of things, but the vast majority participate in what you might call casual physical activity, walking, enjoying, walks in parks, walks in biophilic neighborhoods. That's a built environment, but it's natural still because of that kind of design. So, so what we want to try to promote, I think, is for whatever, in an equity sense, whatever is the right kind of physical activity That's what's important for health is physical activity. Doesn't matter which kind, as much as it matters that you do it. So we want to have access to spaces for physical activity, or however you want to say that. But it's the kind of diversity of quality of space that we're after, quality of good space.
Okay, gonna go to Marilyn and then Kellen, then Tenley, then we're gonna hit the room, and then we're moving to the next topic.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add was maybe what I've heard so far is inclusive, maybe in the header, healthy, inclusive and safe community. From what I'm hearing from others, inclusive would be a good add. And I do agree that probably there's a way to take all of this text and kind of summarize it, bulletize it or something so that it's it's less specific. I think that can be worked on, but otherwise I think adding the word inclusive would be helpful.
Kellen?
So mine's more of a clarifying question. So healthcare stands out to me as a little bit different from the other categories because I think those are really focused on things in Arlington, whereas healthcare, I'm not sure if the county is trying to say we should have access to all of our healthcare needs in Arlington, because right now that's not true. Like you can't get an abortion in Arlington County. There's a lot of gender affirming care that's not found in the county. Is the goal that the county is trying to commit to say that if someone wants that type of healthcare, it will be in Arlington County and that we're going to try to facilitate that? Or is that one different from a lot of these other things? Because I think healthy foods, physical activity, recreation, environmental justice, safe spaces, I think those are all focused on within our community. We want those. Healthcare, that's not the case, where there are some things that just currently they're not in Arlington. Is the county trying to say we want to make sure that we can find all of that in Arlington? And because of that, this is a little bit different. It'd be helpful to get clarification from staff on that.
Thank you. I mean, as I said, that statement initially from the EPA is a guide, but in meaning access to having healthcare would entail in its support for people who need healthcare, whether it's provided within the county or elsewhere, because having healthcare or obtaining that is a basic, I guess, human right, and we want to make sure that people are living a healthy life, regardless of our convictions or whether we provide healthcare or whatever type of healthcare within the county or in neighboring jurisdictions or elsewhere. But it's probably about supporting that. So if we need to add clarifying words to include that, sometimes that type of service might not be in the county, but at least supporting it through agencies to obtain the healthcare that we need. Maybe that's something we can add to the statement.
Sharing resources and understanding where resources are.
Yes, education, definitely is part of it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I do think it'd be helpful if there are ones that the county's saying we want this in the county, and there are ones where we're saying we just want access within the region or something. I think it's helpful to clarify that.
Definitely. I mean, for us, we want to make sure that we don't end up being too kind of detailed. This is part of a general high-level policy statements. Where those become critical is when you develop, for example, the healthcare plan or other things related to services. The operational aspect of it kind of takes that policy and then kind of does its own, we call them strategies or action items that support, as you said, which healthcare services are provided here, which we need to kind of collaborate with other agencies to support.
Commissioner Peterson, you're up.
Yeah, just a similar and quick question. Is this the place where we're addressing public safety, police, fire, ambulance, emergency response, weather emergencies, tornadoes, and even like pandemic response, or is that addressed in the last two categories that we're looking at?
Yeah, yes, we want that to be the place, but I kind of was hearing that some people want to break it to allow for more elaboration on that. If that's kind of sentiment within the room, that's something we can definitely explore.
You're saying this is the place?
Yes, we wanted that to address public safety as well. And we had interviews with the different departments also to discuss kind of goals or objectives that are related to public safety. So if we want to include that as what it means to be a safe community, then great. If we think it's better to break them into healthy community and safe community and kind of elaborate more, then, that's a great suggestion as well.
Okay, I think it's helpful to clarify what are the services related to safety that the county is responsible for providing, such as police, fire, ambulance, emergency response, pandemic response, versus what we are promoting, trying to provide infrastructure to support, but like to earlier points, we are not giving people food for the most part. We are not giving people free healthcare or exercise classes, but we're just making them available so that they can choose in an accessible way to have those things.
I want to hone in on safety, I guess. Now I understand this is the place where safety is. Someone recognized earlier that neighborhood safety is one thing. I think it's false. Individual personal safety, I think, is the key for most citizens and residents and people who visit here. The flip side to safety is access to the criminal justice system. So not just preventing crime through having safe neighborhoods and spaces, but when something bad does happen, that people have access to the criminal justice system in some sort of an equitable way. And just to note what Kellen said about no abortions are provided in Arlington, so too can victims of rape and sexual assault get a rape kit in Arlington. So should be in here, so but I guess on the safety prevention side is one thing, and that's all this glorious talk, but on the flip side of it, it's addressing crime when it happens and making sure the victims are.
Thank you.
I do want to keep us moving, so we're going to go to the next one.
So we have now a resilient economy. And in initial kind of discussions with the community, we even have community and economic resilience. So think of it in that terms as well. So it's ensuring that the community is prepared to deal with both positive and negative changes to its economic health, and to initiate sustainable urban development and redevelopment strategies that foster green business growth and build reliance on local assets. So again, the same question applies. Is it appropriate for Arlington? And is there something missing?
Commissioner Tomei.
This is an odd one for me because we don't have any comprehensive plan element that is the economy.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. It's really woven throughout everything that if we're doing everything in the comp plan right, we're going to have a good economy. That's sort of what's going on. But I know as a planning commissioner, I'm not supposed to be looking at whether a new development is going to make money for the developer. That's irrelevant to us. I'm not even supposed to look and see is this going to contribute to the overall development of the county. That's the Economic Development Commission. That's their job. I'm not supposed to consider that because it's not part of the comp plan. So I want to be really careful about what, I mean, this all says like, yeah, of course, these are good things, but it's not really an element of the comp plan. And I don't think there's anything in the comp plan that's inconsistent with any of these things. So I'm not sure we really need to spend a lot of time on it other than have it as almost a throwaway line. I hate to put it in those terms, but it just doesn't resonate for me as a comp plan element.
I would almost go so far as to say that it seems odd to have it as a guiding principle, as a standalone. I struggle with this one. I think it is elements of sort of everything else that we're sort of aiming to support and do, but calling this out as a standalone, I think, I don't know, opens it to sort of more criticism or more sort of, I'm not, this one didn't speak to me in a way that it's presented here. Yes.
I guess going back to like my political science days, maybe reword it as resilient government, because I feel like Arlington needs to be in a good space to be able to endure a lot of change and provide resources to the county. Like we're expecting Amazon to bring in more jobs and grow the county more. We're constantly getting headquarters moving here, and we only have one hospital in the entire county. So maybe it's like making sure that the government, our county government is prepared to provide a sustainable economy or an environment for the economy to thrive.
I like it better if it deals with government than economy,
Yeah.
but I'm still not sure that that alone does it
Hey,
for me.
it's a stretch.
No, it's not a stretch. That's my personal feeling. No one has to agree with that. We're gonna go to Jillian, Kellen, Commissioner Steiner. And just so we're clear, we're moving on from this one in 3 minutes.
Okay, I will be super quick. I think resiliency in general is super important. And I think that applies to both the economy and to the built environment and to lots of other things. We are in a time of change and we have to be able to deal with change. I think that you're right that it's not in the comp plan right now, but that's been a problem, especially when we look at the budget. I'm the representative from FAC. And so having resiliency and having like fiscal responsibility and talking about being responsible, particularly in the positive times, and planning for the negative times are really great. And then also green business is a very particular thing in terms of art for most people. And I don't think that's what we mean. So, but I think I sort of agree with everyone. This needs to be rewritten, but I do support leaving resiliency as one of the top line principles.
Thanks. Yeah, I was going to say the green business growth is oddly specific to me. And, you know, why not talk about small business growth or opportunities to be entrepreneurs, or there's a whole lot of things in this. I think economy makes sense to me, or whether it's, you know, resilient economy, resilient community, what have you. Like, I think it makes sense because this is a key focus for our county leaders, is making sure that, you know, we have a resilient community and that our economy is strong. So I think you have to have something in here about it. But the wording that's described here seems a little off to me. And I would focus more on like making sure that we're facilitating an environment where people have opportunity to, you know, participate, the economy is accessible, that, you know, it's inclusive, and we're not putting up barriers, that type of stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Turner.
So I've got a macro and a micro. So the micro, I agree with green businesses. I think solar panels buildings here. With the macro, I think resilient economy makes sense because in my relatively short lifespan so far, we've had terrorist attacks, recession, a pandemic, and who knows what's going to happen. So the resilient economy thing makes sense to me. And I think, you know, phrasing it in terms of investments that the county makes to create a diverse, resilient economy with multiple, you know, businesses and industries that we can rely on. I think that makes sense here.
Okay. I'll go with Ms. Diaz, Commissioner Peterson. We're done on this topic then.
I second your comment on resilient economy. You could have resilient community if that economy focus is not welcomed. But this speaks to the resilience that a community or a society has to have in the face of climate change, in the face of all these extreme events that are going to affect us. And this is why it has a sustainable urban development, because we need to create resilient infrastructure. And I find very targeted the green business growth. What about adaptive or absorptive capacity? Because that is what resilience means. A community that is able to absorb the shock and respond to it and get out of it.
Okay, Commissioner Peterson.
Really quickly, a lot of the other elements are kind of framed around people and how people feel in the community. So I think we could potentially rewrite this to also be looking at like people as they relate to the economy. So making sure Arlington is an attractive place for business owners to start a new business, to keep their business, so that we're providing jobs to people, so that we're providing investment opportunities, so that we're providing places for renters to live, so that our commercial tax rate is able to support the community. So I think if we potentially reframe it to talk about the people that are benefiting from the economy, I mean, I do think it belongs here. I think the resiliency is important, but maybe changing it to talk about how it like helps the citizens or not the citizens, the denizens. Thank you.
Thank you. And it was the last one, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So before I move in, I just want to, thank you for all of this, and just saying that it doesn't necessarily have, like, for those guiding principles, it doesn't necessarily have to be speaking to a specific comprehensive plan element. If we're really looking for overarching goals that the elements can help us address even further. So that's where the resilient economy, but we do understand that the community aspect of it is maybe missing, and reframing that so that people can be, front and center, and their livelihood front and center is something that maybe we can definitely strengthen. Okay, so moving on to kind of the broadest one of all, I think, the responsible regionalism. So that one talks about ensuring all local proposals account for, connect with, and support the plans and of adjacent jurisdictions and the surrounding region. And we in the planning section know very well what that means when we have a plan and we kind of need to kind of communicate that to our neighboring jurisdictions. So I'm curious to see your feedback.
Pam and then Jillian.
The word that is missing is collaborative. We are so silo. We need to be working together as a region to solve our problems.
Okay, Jillian.
Yeah, along the same lines, I think the way this is written, it really seems to give up our authority to say we'll do whatever the region wants, or it can be read that way. And I don't think that's what we mean. We do want to work with the region, but not in a way that gives up our power. And just to the resilient economy, the summary was great, but it was missing responsible fiscal government. And I just want to, if we reframe it to be about the economy of people, that's great, but then we're missing the government being fiscally responsible.
Okay, you, sir, then you, sir, then you, ma'am, then Kellen.
I actually think this is a really important thing that we're doing here with this goal. This speaks like this just stands out to me a lot. I think that we don't live on an island. We live within the surrounding region, and so I think to be cognizant of that, I think it's about time that we, and not just we as in Arlington County, but I think it's about time that we as a country decide acting more regionally, because I think not doing that kind of puts us behind the rest of the world. And I think so because of that, I'm really happy it's here, because I just think it's a really important framework for us to have going forward. The only kind of term that's a little weird to me is adjacent. And that's just a grammatical thing. Loudoun County is adjacent to Arlington County. So or Prince George's or Montgomery or Fairfax City so that's just a stylistic thing, but including maybe not having that word and just having the jurisdictions and surrounding region, that just puts us as, okay, we are the geographic center of the DC area, and we're one of the most heavily urbanized. People are not just living in Arlington, but they go through Arlington. And so if almost emphasizing this a lot more sometimes, I think is sometimes lost in not just Arlington County, but the rest of the region. And so being able to work with the other regions, I don't necessarily think of it as giving up authority to the rest of the region. I think of this goal as hey, we are the geographic center here. Let's try to, work more with our regional partners to say, okay, we have these overarching issues like housing and transportation. What is Fairfax County doing? What is Montgomery County doing? And how can we work with them to say, okay, let's share, either resources or share expertise to, fix some of these problems. So I think this is a really important goal, and I'm really here.
Okay. Yes.
I just want to can I just clarify that I 100% agree with everything you just said. I just think the way this is written, it cedes our authority. It just says, it could be read to say, we just take what other people tell us. And that's, I don't think what we need.
Okay, yes, sir.
I do want to echo that. I think my issue is more to support the plans of adjacent jurisdictions, because we can be supporting them, but they're not supporting us. So I would reword that part, but I agree with all the other, and then I think another commissioner also said collaborate, so incorporate that as well.
Yeah, I agree with collaborative. I think support the plans. What if they're terrible plans?
Yeah. I think that right there, that seeds our authority and support.
Commissioner, tell me.
Yeah, it's important to have something like this in our plan, whether it's this language or something different, but it's important to have it because it's something that unfortunately is honored more in the breach. Just look at metro funding, that every region, every jurisdiction in this metro area jealously, so it's perils of polling every budget year. Where's the money going to come from? Because no one can agree to a funding mechanism that would give metro stability. And that's exactly not responsible regionalism. So that's why it's frustrating. And we have, every jurisdiction has its own bus line. It's, you want to hit your head and go, it's absurd. So it's important to have it here, if only because it's auditory, even though all too often it's ignored.
Yes.
Just kind of echoing what everyone else said, maybe instead of support, it could be guide, like Dare to Dream, we could guide these things. But also I think, again, supporting what other people have said, I really like this goal because I think a lot of the big problems we're trying to solve with all the other things, big problems require big solutions, and thinking big and thinking regionally, as we've had pointed out earlier, there are certain things you can't do here in Arlington. So how can we work with our surrounding communities to be able to make everything more accessible to everyone? And then lastly, there are also just certain issues that require thinking regionally as well. As we've had pointed out, transportation is one of them. I think environmental protection and responsibility is another one.
Health, housing.
Exactly. So I think getting a little more specific with some examples within this could be helpful.
Thank you. Kellen, you had your hand raised, but now it's not. Do you wish to be heard on this one?
I think people already said what I was going to say.
Excellent. So I believe next on the agenda is an open discussion of sort of if there are other guiding principles that we would like to suggest to include. So we have a few minutes for that. There will be time for public comment. We will probably go over by about 5 minutes on this meeting. I'm not inclined to go over by more. Or if no one has any guiding principles they wish to add, Kellen, you're up.
It's sort of reflected in some of them, but I think emphasizing the interconnectedness of the issues and sort of like oftentimes the need for collaboration among Arlington County's different departments and offices, and sort of a whole of government approach to solving a lot of the challenges that we face in the county. It's something that, to some extent the county struggles with doing this. And you see that even in some of the plans that we make as a community that we kind of leave out some of the other related areas that should be included because it was developed by CPHD. And so the rest of the departments didn't really have a key role in it, even though it impacts them. So I could see that as something like a whole of government approach to, intersectional issues. But
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to be heard on additional guiding principles in the section? Yes, Pam.
In the update to the master transportation plan, one of our goals is how the staff will actually implement it. And I think that we here, transparency, evidence-based, data-driven, all that good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Yes.
Yes. Can I just add, and it kind of was echoed in some of the discussion. I did hear references to education, and there were comments from the public to actually treat it as its own separate, even with our interdepartmental interactions and our, session that we had. Governance, I can hear that, and fiscal responsibility, I think, is something that we can consider as well. So I'm very glad that I'm seeing some things that are being echoed, that are, aligned with what we had from the community feedback, as well as our interdepartmental interviews and interactions. And it was developed, a lot of it with extensive interviews. So we had, I think, 70 something hours of interviews with different departments and programs to, to allow us to understand what they're doing and what is missing.
We appreciate that context. Jillian, your hand is up.
Yeah, real quick. So missing, what I think is still missing and just probably can be worked into other stuff that's already there is the idea of all ages, like more stuff with kids and the elderly. I'm sort of more focused on the kids side, but I think there's stuff on the other end of the age spectrum. And that includes your public engagement. Please go talk to children. They're in schools, they're a captive audience. Please go talk to them. And private partners, like in nonprofit partners outside of government, that regionalism is great. Often that is termed in that's usually discussed in terms of partnerships, like regional and other partnerships. I don't know if it goes there or it goes somewhere else, but we work with lots of people aside from the regional. We work with all these NGOs, we work with businesses and everything else. And then my third point is just, and I touched on this, the comprehensive plan is really, really hard when it comes to making a budget because there's no priorities in it among the silos. There's just silos. And when you have limited resources and you have to make choices among those limited resources, our comp plan does not do a great job on guiding that. There are comp plans out there that do a better job. Many of them are metrics driven. So even within a silo, if a silo has metrics and there's a different silo that also has metrics and both silos have goals, you can see which silo is further away from its goal and things like that, and where money would have more of an impact or less of an impact. So I hope that this effort isn't just adding sort of a layer of administration on top of an already siloed comp plan, because the comp plan is hard to work with.
I think we'll leave it there and head to public comment. Do we have a public comment?
No one has signed up on the chat.
Well, I know that.
I know you wanted to.
Mr. Sandoli?
Sandoli, yeah.
Mr. Sandoli, are you still with us? Mr. Sandoli may not be with us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Okay, Mr. Sandoli, I have signed you up for public comment because you tried to speak earlier. So if you would like to take advantage of that, you may do so now.
Sure, thank you very much. And apologies, Lillian, I'll coordinate better next time. My comment is really in the chat. I just want to make sure we.
Yes, but we're not supposed to use the chat for anything other than technical feedback. So you should read it or express it verbally now, so it's recorded.
Okay, I'll express it verbally. So the county board recently passed a climate action resolution, and the staff county staff are preparing a climate action plan, and that's going to impact every part of planning and development in the county. And they've started meeting with the climate team has been meeting with all of the various elements and departments within the county. So I'd really like to see reflected a climate and emissions reduction somewhere in these planning principles, whether that goes into the first one, the living built environment, or harmony with nature, wherever it fits. We've talked about a lot of changes to all of the language in all 6 of these principles. So, or it could be a standalone if we wanted to edit it at the end, but I think it's a really important element to include. Thanks very much. Over.
Thank you. I realized I was negligent in not saying how long people have for public comment. You did great. That was fine. But folks get 90 seconds. That's my decision. Who do we have next? I thought a couple people said that. Rick Epstein, you're up. 90 seconds.
Really quickly. First of all, racial equity, I would drop the word racial. There are many ways to analyze the groups in the county. That narrows it unnecessarily. 2, you've used the word ensure, which implies to me an obligation. I think what we're trying to accomplish here is what's important to the county. So I would drop the word ensure. We have limited resources. And third, you've called these guiding principles or planning principles. To me, they're community values. I'm a little bit concerned about bolting onto our comprehensive plan a set of what are really community values. You're not going to get broad community involvement in something that falls under planning. So I would just raise a basic concern about this being the context in which we try to lay out these community values. How did I do in your 90 seconds?
You have 37 left.
Wow, it's faster than I thought. Definitely in the latter point. There's something, and I'm not a planning person, obviously, there's something that troubles me about trying to lay these out in this context and somehow limiting our flexibility in a planning document, for example, regional involvement. That to me, again, is something that falls out. It's overarching, but I'm troubled about incorporating it into this comprehensive plan. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Hang on, let me reset the timer. You had 3 seconds left, in case you were tracking. Jason Schwartz, hang on. You can start now.
All right, real quick. So one thing I think for all these elements, I think is that ties it together is density is needed. My second thing is that I really like the responsible regionalism, though I think that's more applicable to more suburban counties and jurisdictions who tend to extract value from urban areas more. So, but I think it still does apply to Arlington. But that could reflect in itself is that something that benefits the region may not be as beneficial for Arlington. Just for example, like I know Alexandria, they're looking at ways they can improve their commercial base, but for the region, it may not be best for Alexandria to do that sort of thing. So there are some trade-offs for responsible regionalism, but overall I think that Arlington is not, I think what's best for Arlington is generally best for the region versus the outer jurisdictions. I think that's more applicable to them. Like they need to be doing their fair share. So that's my comment.
You had 30 seconds left, in case you were wondering. Do you have any other public comment?
No. Wait, let me check. No, that's it.
All right. We appreciate everyone's time. Wait, now I just turned off the timer. We appreciate everyone's time this evening. Thank you again for participating. It sounds like we will have 3 more of these, the LRPC, 3 remaining meetings. Okay. I heard September, late fall, and January. So dates will be forthcoming. Thank you all for your time.